Hey everybody, welcome back to another flipped lesson. And in this lesson, we're going to be introducing the digestive system. So a quick lesson here, just a brief overview. We're going to definitely get more in depth in class and in the future on a lot of the different organs here. But this is going to be a brief overview of the digestive system and some of the organs that have to do with it, but kind of what's the purpose of it and what are the steps of when we digest something, okay? So let's hop right into it. Make sure you get all your notes, and at the end, if you're missing anything, go back and take a look. All right, so first off, let's talk about nutrition, right? So a nutrient is a substance in food used to promote growth, maintenance, and repair. All right, so our nutrients are things that we get out of our food, things that we eat, right? We think about our important vitamins and minerals, all right, that we need to do stuff. If you think way back to biology, you talked about different cycles like phosphorus, nitrogen, carbon cycle. Okay, those all come into play there. And then we also think about in terms of getting energy, right? So we need energy to power the cells in our body. We've talked about how all your cells are powered off cell respiration, all right? And to do cell respiration, you need glucose, sugar, and you can get those through sugars, you can get those through lipids, and you need proteins, right, for your cells to do chemical reactions and help do growth and repair and things like that. So what are some of our major nutrients, right? Carbohydrates, your sugars, starches. You get a lot of your energy from those. Lipids, right, where you get a lot of fat, a lot of energy, helps make the cell membranes of your cells, right? And then proteins, right, that we talked about. And what foods have a lot of protein? So eggs, milk, meat, lots of protein in there, okay? A lot of, and not necessarily all meat, right? A lot of them comes from vegetables too, right? Beans, legumes, right? Soybeans, things like that, nuts, okay? And then we get vitamins and minerals, which are really important for your cellular processes and make up many, many parts of your body, allow your cells to do lots of functions. So all these are really important, all right? And when we think about digestion, right, the digestion is the process of getting all of these nutrients out of our food and into a useful format for the cells of our body. So how do we do that? All right, well, there's a couple steps. And the first part of digestion is called ingestion. And you'll see one of our favorite SpongeBob characters there. All right, but ingestion is the process of putting food into your mouth, okay, the opening of the digestive tract. So getting that food inside. And if we look at the animal kingdom, I mean, there's so many different ways for ingestion. It's a really, really cool thing to look at. We could think about ourselves with our mouth, right? And how we eat and start to chew, which then starts the next step. But there's other ways too, right? I mean, look at like Venus flytraps, right? They traps things. Look at jellyfish, right? Jellyfish actually just have one stomach they suck things into and then spit it out, right? Same hole. And there's all different types of things, tube worms, fish, alligators. So ingestion, right? Getting that food and putting it into your mouth there, okay? Then we start the next part, which is called digestion, all right? And that's how food is broken down. And there's two ways to break down this food, either mechanical or chemical, and our body does both, okay? So mechanical digestion is the physical breakdown of large pieces of food into smaller pieces. And we think about it, right? We start eating, what's the first thing you start doing? Right, chewing and biting, okay? And that's one way in which we do some mechanical digestion. We think about how else, right? When you chew, your tongue pushes stuff around your mouth. It pushes food against the roof of your mouth, your palate, against teeth, around back. So lots of mechanical digestion going on. Then we have chemical digestion, right? Where enzymes, chemicals, break down food into small molecules. And that starts in your mouth too, right? It starts with the saliva in your mouth, has amylase, right? An enzyme that breaks down the sugar, amylose. And that's why if you leave like a cracker, really simple sugars in your mouth, right? Your mouth will actually dissolve it. It'll disappear. So again, how do we break this down? Physical, we break it into little parts, and then chemical. Chemical, where we're using enzymes, right, to break things down. All right, so we have ingestion, we take it in. Digestion, we break it down. And then we have absorption, all right? And once food is broken down small enough, and I guess actually I should go back here, right? We see it starts right after the stomach here. And one of the big ways that we do chemical digestions in our stomach, right? Powerful acid helps break down the foods we eat there. And that was part of digestion. But absorption, right? So once we have that stuff small enough, it goes into our small intestine here, which is where your body starts to absorb all those food particles, those nutrients, those macromolecules, right, into the bloodstream. All right, so it gets absorbed by the cells of the small intestine. Okay, and you can see what we have is a bolus, right? It's kind of like a ball of food, we refer to it as. But after we go all the way through the small intestine, so and the small intestine is here in the middle, right? Even though it's technically a small intestine, it's way longer than your large. You get up to 23 feet of small intestine. All right, but we get kind of this like slurry, slushy material of mostly waste called chyme. All right, and that goes into your large intestine, which is right here. So your large one goes up, over, and down. Okay, and then kind of back in here to your rectum. And your large intestine is primarily responsible for absorbing water. So your small intestine gets the nutrients out, and then by the time it gets here, we have waste product, and your large intestine absorbs all that water out. All right, and then finally, after we have absorption, we have the last part, elimination. Okay, where materials that travel through the large intestine, as they go through, more and more water is absorbed, and then eventually you get all the way down here to the rectum, which is where your feces is stored. So right at the end of the colon, right, is also another name for our large intestine, if you didn't know. When you get to the end of the colon, you basically have feces or poop in here, and that's where it gets stored up in your rectum. So when you feel yourself having to go number 2, right, that means your rectum's starting to get loaded up, and your body goes, oh, it's time to go. All right, and then we have elimination. All right, we're going to talk way more in depth about these, but just, if you want to take a screenshot, here's some of the big ones. They're not all of them. It's not all the parts we'll talk about. But again, we can think about it as the process of digestion. So ingestion, right, coming in through the mouth here for us, maybe through the nose if you ever stuck a piece of spaghetti in your nose, but mostly through the mouth. That was a joke. All right, so ingestion. Then we have digestion, breaking down, right, mechanical in the mouth, and chemical in the mouth, right? Mechanical is it gets smushed around, even squeezed through the esophagus, the food tube, and then obviously chemical digestion by your liver, gallbladder, pancreas, and stomach, right? All secreting enzymes and acid, obviously, in the stomach to do chemical digestion. Into the small intestine, right, where it's absorbed, large intestine where water is absorbed, rectum where it's stored, and then it eliminates through the anus, right? So our steps of digestion there, as we see with some of our major organs. Okay, again, we're going to talk more about these, right? The mouth, right, for chewing, and something we'll talk about is, right, our salivary gland, which is saliva, has chemicals like we talked about to digest stuff, but something we'll talk about in class is actually the teeth, right? And we have many different types of teeth. You have incisors, canines, molars, premolars, right? And your teeth are designed for different types of food. Some really cool evolutionary trait we have, all right? Again, the esophagus we talked about, where it's basically the tube that passes food from our mouth down to our stomach, and then we call that, I referenced it before, that mushy ball of food you swallow is called a bolus. All right, and your esophagus is actually a muscle. It squeezes food down, and that's why you can eat when you're upside down or when you're in space. It doesn't depend on gravity. All right, and then again, chemical and physical digestion in the stomach. We said your stomach actually squishes food back and forth. Maybe you've heard your stomach rumble before. And obviously chemical digestion, because not only is there enzymes, there's lots of acid in here. Okay. Our pancreas, right, regulates blood sugar levels, makes enzymes, and it also creates a sodium bicarbonate, all right, a buffer, a weak base that neutralizes stomach acid. So your pancreas is really, really important for us. Again, we're going to go more in depth on all these in class, but just kind of a quick overview. Okay, your liver makes bile, which helps break down fats and things with salts, all right? And it's stored in our gallbladder here, a little patch, and it gets secreted right into the duodenum, the beginning of the small intestine. Sweet. And again, we can see we have different parts of the small intestine, 3 major parts, the duodenum, then we have the jejunum, and the ileum, all right? And then we have our large intestine, or our colon here, going to the rectum. All right, and again, we said mostly water gets absorbed from the large intestine. And then finally, elimination, right? Concentrated waste material or feces, as moves into the rectum from our large intestine. And a little bit about your poops, which we'll talk more about in class, right? But you can think about it, maybe you, especially, little kids get constipated a lot. They don't have enough water, too much water is absorbed, right? Maybe they're not drinking enough water. So you get really, really firm fecal matter, and you get constipated. All right. And then on the opposite, if you have way too much water, usually caused by if you're ill, right? And something we'll talk about more in class is that your large intestine actually is loaded up with bacteria, all right, which help you digest. It's important. It's a symbiotic relationship. But if you have something going on with those, a bacterial imbalance, or if you get sick or an infection, right, you're not absorbing water, so you get diarrhea, and then you could get dehydrated. Okay, so Really important stuff. Elimination happens at the end here. Okay, and again, we could see our parts of digestion. Cool. So guys, that's a quick one on digestion, right? Again, kind of what is it? What are we looking to get out of it? And then the steps. We're going to go more in depth on all these organs and how they work, as well as identifying them in class. So just make sure you got everything filled in on your notes, and we'll see you on the next one.